А извини, пожалуйста, вы можете посмотреть кофемашину, потому что она не работает.
Кофе? Так, это
не там, но факт, который здесь.
Ага, я понял. Сейчас. Алик! Алик! Там Егор! Егор! Там кофемашина не работает.
А мусора тоже только там?
Что? Вроде нормально, кофемашина не работает. Надо было мусорку организовать. Что? Какое-нибудь ведро поставить. Мусор, да, пока только там. Сейчас организуем еще один. Можно немножко вас еще для трансляции ввести? Вот. Еще можно вот сюда, наверное, купить. Можно вот сюда будет.
Можно вот так сделать.
Да, Уже поймал. Вот. Видите, поймал и затащил. С этого самого формата. Ну, я так понимаю.
Okay, please take your seats. We have to proceed with the presentations. And, the next presentation will be very interesting, very important. What should a young scientist do to promote his or her career?
Yeah, so thank you, Michel. I have to repeat that I am a child of my own background. This means from medicine, from Scandinavia, and a lot of things I'm saying is different between different countries, different continents, and a lot of things I'm saying may not be valid for you in Russia. I have worked a long time in Norway and Sweden, and basically been around in every continent, but there are so big differences what is good and what is bad and what is necessary, so because countries and cultures and traditions are different. So if you think that I'm speaking nonsense about something, it might be because we are different from different cultures and traditions. I also understood that here would be a lot of non-medical people and also medical people not really involved in clinical. Therefore, on my own initiative in the last days, I just decided to take away one of the clinical talks and have put in something that might be a little interesting because I understood there would be a lot of younger people here. Basically, I could stop the talk here because it's all there. 1. Choose the right research group. 2. Publish. 3. Publish. 4. Publish. Become visible. Dare to take challenges. Dare to take chances. Go to conferences. And hard work. If you know this, we could cut out the rest of the talk. But we can talk a little around these things. The right research group, well, I'm talking about publishing. Publishing is in the academic university world, and it might be, for instance, if you are working in a company, an industry group, publishing is not important because there is to develop products. So you can earn a tremendous merit without publishing anything just because you did an enormous fine job in developing these things. But that, if you want to go to the university world, if you don't publish, you are lost. So, when you look for the right research group, look for a group that publish. If their publishing pathway is dry, then there's no reason to believe that this will change just because you start to work there. So what is the research topic? Is it exciting new, or are they just inventing the wheel once again? Then the atmosphere within the group. You want to have a nice environment around you, a good atmosphere at work. And then don't listen to the old professor that tells you everything is perfect. Just go and talk with the students working there. Are they happy with their life? Are the supervisors helpful? Are the other students, are they friendly? Or how is it? This is important because you will be there every day, and research is not from 9 to 4. It is from 8 until at least 8. So you spend that time there. And how is the group leader? A good or bad group leader is extremely important. Is he first innovative, dedicated, enthusiastic? It's best to be in a research group with different people at different stages of their scientific career for day-to-day talks and help. Because if you are like a group, there's always somebody who knows something that you didn't know, can help you, or somebody who's coming further in the area than you that knows more about everything. And this mix is extremely important. Because the head of the group, the professor, he is usually not there. He's sitting in some committee meeting at university administration or whatever. So maybe you see him next week. But those that work around you every day are really so important. And should you be in a large or a small research group? Well, it shouldn't be too small. If it's only you and the professor, it's not good. I would say maybe hopeless. If it's huge group, it may just be too big and but these are my personal beliefs. A medium-sized research group inside an institution with many other groups, because you should have a core where you belong. And what is a medium-sized research group? I think something between 5 and 10 people that are working at topics that are not identical, but within the same frame. So you are using a lot of the same techniques, the models, etc., etc. Because then there's always somebody among these 5 or 10 people that knows this model better than you that can help and show you. And because you are inside an institution with other groups, then if you need something outside your own group, there's a big chance that somebody else close in the neighborhood knows this. So, you're looking for a supervisor. Is he interested in teaching and educating the young scientist? What is his scientific track record? Does he publish, he or she? Visionary, critical, enthusiastic, supportive of his students, able to create a good atmosphere. I'm repeating this, but there's a lot that depends on the leader. And then it is the project. There's something called safe projects, something called high-risk projects, something called hopeless projects, and totally new ideas. I think when people start a scientific career, they should have something safe. With safe means that you are basically guaranteed to get some data out of it that can be published. When it's safe, it usually means that you more or less know the results before you get them. Means that this is not Nobel Prize science, but still it can be a contribution to the scientific world. And I think, at least in my philosophy, if I get a new PhD student, to start with something relatively simple, because it is so good because when you start doing research, you're confused, you don't understand why I do this and what's the point, and well, it's interesting, but I don't know the methods, and to get to create some data, results that you feel fit in with what you're supposed to do, and that is my property, I did it, is very good for the self feelings of this particular student. It's a strong motivation. So therefore, my philosophy is that students should start with something that is relatively safe. I mean, nothing is safe in research, but because we all know that suddenly something doesn't work, etc., etc. Then you have what I call high-risk projects. The high risk that this will not succeed. You will not get any results, or you will get the wrong results. Why is it high risk? Because it is something that you don't know about. But high risk projects are more rewarding. They are more interesting. They are new. And with time you should have this combination of safe projects, high risk projects. Then you have the hopeless projects. And sometimes it happens that a new student comes and the professor had this thought he had for the last 10 years, but it was too complicated to do, so now got a new student and can do it. And then there is a risk that you work 3 years and you have nothing. And I think if after a certain time the supervisor sees that this does produce anything, it's almost criminal to let the student just go on and on, because in the end of the day, after 3 years, this person have lost 3 years of his or her life. So you should. It is very difficult to stop once you have started to work on a project, because you realize. But then you should think maybe somebody else should do this, because for the very young student, this is very special, and there are those that just leaves research because they get too frustrated. The more high risk and, let's say, hopeless projects are for those that are coming past their doctorate. And of course, totally new ideas is always interesting as a response to the question, sexy as well. And we want the new things. New things and high-risk projects are very closely connected. And it is more interesting, high-quality research. So, publishing. This is, again, totally different between countries and cultures. But from a Scandinavian point of view, you just have to publish in international journals. That's the only thing that counts. And you need a list of publications with both quality and quantity. Why do I say quality and quantity? Because everything should be quality. And when I say quantity, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have quality, but something should have a higher quality. And nothing impresses more than a long list of publications. But then if you publish this in journals that nobody heard about, then it actually speaks against you. You have to, but there are still a lot of, let's say, normal journals where you can publish. And nothing impresses more than lots of publications in the highest ranking international journals. Most of us publish in the better, more usual journals. We should try to have a certain amount that are in what are called normal journals. They are listed in PubMed, they have a reasonable impact factor, etc., etc. But a long list of publications in unknown journals speaks against you. The journal should be in the international list of recognized journals, like PubMed. You should try to have some publications in the better, higher ranking journals, But a desperate urge to publish only in the highest ranked journals will make your publication list very small, because there are quite few of us who get into that. So we should look for, we should have a modesty combined with ambitions. So go for both quality and quantity. I can give you an example. When in Scandinavia we apply for a professorship, we are asked to list 10 or send in 10 or 20 of our so-called most important publication. The rest is only a list. It's important but less important. And it can also contain some filling mass. Because people just look at the length of it. You should have something very good and something that are, let's say, a normal. But even if those are not in the internationally top-ranked journals, a longer publication list shows that you have the ability to publish and get things up. But still at a certain quality. You should not go only to those absolutely obscure, unknown, open access journals on the internet that nobody ever heard about. That may, in the end of the day, speak against you. So we have the impact factor, a definition. In any given year, the impact factor of a journal is the average number of citations received per paper published in that journal during the 2 preceding years. This is something that the journals are actively working to improve their impact factor. When the impact factor, because the scientists want to publish there, because if you publish in journals with a higher impact factor, it's like marking your forehead, this is good. And a lot of discussion how important this impact factor is, and a lot of errors in it. But it is there, and we cannot avoid it. So, why do the editors want to increase the impact factor? Well, it's prestige in the scientific community, and a high impact factor attracts more manuscripts, and it attracts more high quality manuscripts, and this will increase the impact factor further. I'm not quite sure about now, but for many years the journal Cell had the highest impact factor, which was approximately 40, which means that the average paper were referred to 40 times in the 2 preceding years, which is quite enormous. An impact factor of 2 is by far acceptable. And there is a widespread use of evaluating individual by impact factor. This is controversial because within the single journal there are big variation from article to article, and also journals in the field with large audience will naturally get the high impact factor than journals aiming at a smaller part of the scientific community. So, for instance, journals that aim at very basic science that people can come in from many different angles, they always get a higher impact factor than a journal which has a much more narrow scope of readers, because then it will not be quoted so much. So you can like it or not, but have a look at the impact factor of a journal where you want to publish. Try to avoid those journals that have impact factor of 0.1. It has become more and more common to look for impact factor of journals where you publish. For instance, when I apply for a grant, reviewers will look in my list of publications, what kind of journals did you publish in? And when you apply for an academic position, however, if I'm a cardiac surgeon, so if I apply for another professorship, those at review will basically look mostly on the impact factor within the speciality. I don't know if the impact factors for journals in other fields of science outside medicine. Vishal, you know this?
Yes, sure. I think every scientific journal has some higher.
Okay. So we have authorship and co-author. And this is totally different in different traditions. It's now 25 years ago I had a collaboration with the group in Italy. And there, the head of the institution, the professor, was always first author on all papers. The point was that the papers were written in English, and he could not English. And basically, there were a lot of people doing it, and he didn't exactly know what they had been doing. So that was the tradition there. I'm referring to how it works. This is variable between institutions, it's variable between countries, between continents, but I'm just referring to what we do in Norway and Sweden. The first author is normally the younger scientist who actually did the hard work. But he's also supposed to write the manuscript. Of course, the manuscript is also read and reread and corrected by the co-workers and his or her supervisor, so they're all involved, but to bring it into a manuscript is supposed to be the first author. So, I tell you, get as many first authorships as possible. Because when somebody later will look at your CV, they will just look, how many first authorships does he or she have? It's also possible, let's say that you are in a team and two of you are working very closely together. It's also possible to have so-called shared first authorship. Then you can just see at the bottom of the first line of the publication, you can see that NN and HH, they contributed equally to this work, which means that they have a shared first authorship. Then it's the last author. Last author. The head of the institution, the group leader, the one who is intellectual spirit behind the work, the one who got the grant, the one who initiated the project, the one who made the project possible. The last author is a statement. This work comes from my scientific life. It is like putting the mark made in Russia on some product. When this is referred to a group leader, it refers to it's made in my group. And so when you see a paper and the last author is this and this, then you know. And maybe you know this person, and then you know, oh, this person is not a good scientist, or this person is reliable. Because when it comes out from someone's group, and this last author, if you know this, you know also something about the quality of the work. A considerable seniority is necessary to be the last author, and when you want to become a professor, last authorships are necessary. It demonstrates that you are an independent scientist and are able to create your own research group. Then we have all the co-authors, because sometimes you have 6, 8 people working together, and all works today as a result of collaboration. The second, if you're a second author, it actually indicates a considerable role in the present study. The other places on the author, rank authors, doesn't say very much. I say it gives volume to your list of publications, and it also demonstrates that you're able to work in a group. There are some people that are not able to work in a group, to be in collaborations. Usually, the list of authors and ranking is self-evident. However, people can get enemies for life related to their ranking among the authors. And friends can become deadly enemies. And for instance, what number of authors should a person have? Should it be number 3 or 4 or 5? Usually there's no reason to discuss this. It doesn't matter this much. Let's just say, be generous. And there are some people that feel I should have been included, but I was not included. So once again, be generous. Everybody will be happy. There's something called the Vancouver Rules, which is a rule of what qualifies to authorship. And it's only to Google Vancouver Rules and you will see what is it. Actually, those are quite strict. And I think in our daily life we practice these things much more liberally. And to be generous with this and include generously people in the group keeps the group happy. And a happy group is a productive group. So, how more can, in addition to publishing, how can you promote the group? I said be chances. And there's one thing, write reviews. Reviews has a tendency to be referred to in literature much more than original papers. Therefore, journalists are very fond of reviews. They like reviews because reviews increase their impact factor. And especially if this is quite a new field where not so much is known. If you just grab it, write a review, publish, then suddenly this field is yours. I have a Russian working with me now. He made his PhD, his doctorate. I said, you should write a review or summarize your work, because this is 50% what has been done in this field in the heart you have done. Because this also means that this is a field that people did not know very much about. So he wrote the review. You know what happened? Then suddenly, when somebody else were submitting a paper in this field, he gets from the editor the paper for reviewing, because he is now regarded to be the world champion. And last summer he was invited to give a review lecture made at the big international conference on the field, just because he wrote the review. Of course, he had then done a lot of work and published papers, original papers in the field. But writing reviews is a very good way of becoming visible. But it shouldn't be a topic that people has been writing about for 50 years, and you don't. The best is if this is a topic where few people have written. There is not much information, but you just collect it. So participate in conferences and present your work. Maybe somebody else sits there and think, oh, he or she is absolutely great. They should come and work with me. Be active wherever other scientists can see you. Participate in meetings, symposiums, and conferences. If you are asked to take a special challenge, a task, take it. If you have own ideas, bring them forward. Because if you can realize some of your own ideas, then you are starting to do something great. The other thing is, usually it takes a few years of hard, intense work before the ideas are good. I mean, usually after 1 year of working with research, the ideas are usually not mature enough. On the other side, sometimes it's impressive what can come from somebody who looks at things at a totally new angle. So, but in the end of the day, hard work, hard work, hard work. So.
Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Actually, I have two questions. First question would be, how many first authors is it possible to have? Because, well, we're right now in a research team with 3 people and we're sharing completely equally. How many first authors does it look?
No, if you are 3 working together, you just write that
Doesn't that look stupid?
contributed equally to this. But there is a catch on this, because usually, what is your last name?
Leipert.
What?
Leipert.
Leipert. Okay. So, if you are listed first, but your 3 authors that share first authorship, then this paper will be Leipert and co-workers. So for the next paper, somebody else should be it, but you just have a footnote that you are. So you should go like a circle for 3, and then you start again. But when somebody actually reads it, they will see that you contribute equally, and also you can, if you write publication list, you can write in parentheses shared first authorship, even if you're not. But when you search on PubMed, everybody will think it's Leipert and co-workers.
Is there an alphabetical order, or no?
No. You can put it like you want, as long as you just write that it's shared first authorship.
And my second question is, I'm right now a 5th year medical student. I mean, seeing all this, we're supposed to organize meetings, go to conferences.
Yes.
5th year medical student, I don't know when to do that. Is that expected of me, or is that like in Germany we would have like a scientific work on the side starting from 6th year? Right now we're already in Germany. I would already be early, but I mean I can't pack all this into my everyday life. What is expected of me as a 5th year medical student to do?
Well, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go home
Actually, I already do that, but we have a lot to study.
at 11 in the evening.
That is basically, we have classes from 9 till 3 somewhere.
Yeah.
Then we go home, then we study for the class.
Yes.
Not like literally. I'm not expected to get out of med school and have 5 papers published.
No, nobody expects that. And what
is expected?
I am talking about when you are a position where you do research, preferably on a full-time basis.
That would mean after med school, like
Yes.
at Max Planck Institute in Germany once I finished my studies here.
Yes. But
So what can I basically do to get right now? What is expected of me to do to get into something like this?
You're a German medical student?
Well, I'm German by nationality.
Yes?
Yes.
And you're a medical student?
In St. Petersburg
In St.
at
Petersburg.
Pavlov
Okay.
University.
Yeah. So, as I said, work hard.
Thank you very much. I'm intending to do that, but
Yeah, as a medical student, we have something called the nourishment chain. I mean, you have
I'm like there.
You have the grass where the cow is eating it, and we got the milk, and we slaughter the calf, and we eat them. So we are sitting on top. And I'm sorry to say this, but in a way, as a medical student, you are the grass.
I know, but I have to get sometimes to be the cow. I think that's where we are, and then I have to be the farmer. So
the point is, it takes some time. And nobody expects you as a medical student just starting to do some research to start arranging nausea, etc., etc. But this is something after a few years you should look at this. And if you get a challenge, you are asked, grab it.
okay, so basically working already in a research group trying to publish papers is already good, or is that already in an international way?
Yes,
Is that already
yes.
not
As a medical student, that is very good.
all right. Thank you very much. That's good to hear.
Please.
Thank you for very useful lecture, and I have also two questions. The first one, how to understand that a project is hopeless? How much time I should spend to understand that I should give up?
There is no answer to it. But and actually, if you have a good and decent supervisor, he should tell you this. I have stopped doctoral students from one project and changed to another after 1 year, where we saw that this was a dead end. And she finished the other project very successful, but actually she lost 1 year of her life. But of course it was not lost, because she was learning a lot of techniques and learning a lot of science. So when she started the other project, sometimes you just have to realize that a project is a dead end. On the other side, I have now a project where 3 people work. We worked for 2 years without any publishing anything. We're just developing, but we saw that we were developing, and we also could see that we were getting closer and closer. And suddenly now we see, all of a sudden, we have 6 papers coming up. But it took almost 3 years.
Thank you. And another question: do you think that there should be a separation in research group of work? I mean, for example, one do only experiment, one only write articles.
No.
Everybody should do everything.
Everybody should write and everybody should do experiment. But it might be that within a group it's very good. This person specializes in this technique. This person is a champion on that technique. The third person is very good on this technique. Because the techniques are difficult. I mean, in principle, everybody can learn the techniques. But all should have a knowledge to it. But I think it's very rational if there's a specialization within the group for the techniques. But everybody should do experiments, everybody should write. If you should never be first author paper, in my opinion, if you did not bring forward the raw manuscript. Then your co-workers and your supervisor is cooking on the manuscript and changing it and manipulating it, and you feel like shit when you get it back because it has been changed. So, but that's how it is. More questions? No? Then we can proceed to the next presentation about clinical trials. Was it clinical trials? Number 2. Since there was so few, obviously, that any contact with clinical work, I decided to cut away one of these lectures and combine it and make everything a little shorter. Because studies on humans, on patients, is different from the others in many ways. And we have a hierarchy of evidence. This means that those that gives least substance to knowledge is a case report. It just means somebody had a very interesting and maybe not a common patient, and it just tells or writes about this patient. This is usually not published unless it's something very special. Then you can have a series of some special patients. It gives you some more information. Then you have retrospective studies. This means that in a patient population, you have them in your database, and then you go back into the database and try to analyze what is common, what are the risk factors, etc., etc. Then you can have prospective studies. This means that, okay, from now on, I want to monitor all information on this patient group. And then you have so-called randomized trials, which is the top. Prospective randomized trials means that you study the intervention. You identify inclusion and exclusion criteria. And among the patients that fit into the study, they should be within a certain age limit, they should have that and that criteria, and they should not have that and that. They are included. So supposedly the patient group is quite homogeneous. On the other side, I know that people are never homogeneous, but we think they are. So then these patients are then randomly included in one group or the other group. It's random. And in the end of the day, we believe that the two groups of patients are similar. That's the concept. The two groups of patients are similar, and these are the studies that gives the highest impact and gives us most information and strongest evidence of any intervention, drug, or procedure, whatever you want. And this is okay. When we say prospective randomized study, everybody say hallelujah. And this is, of course, this is right. This is the best for patients. And ask, do we always need such trials? Parachutes reduce the risk of injury after gravitational challenge, but the effectiveness has not been proved with randomized controlled trials. So. Parachutes are widely used to prevent death and major injury after gravitational challenge. And this is interesting then. You can say, people can fall from big heights and there's not 100% knowledge. So how do you know that parachutes really prevent? There are case histories where people have come out from at 2,000-3,000 meters and then killed. And they're not anecdotal, they exist. So, no randomized controlled trials of parachutes has been undertaken. So maybe those that jump in parachutes are just so healthy, is why they survive. Well, you can argue like this, but in the end of the day, we have to say that not everything needs randomized prospective control studies, because the individuals who insist on that need to come down to earth with a buff. So just keep this in mind. There are some things that are so strongly self-evident. This is not necessary, but still, the prospective randomized study is on the top. Then there's another thing. In research, avoid confounding factor. This is something that has been a lot of confusion and misunderstanding. Some things the media, journals, television finds a confounding factor and tells it with strong words that is so and so. Confounding factor is just finding an association for the wrong reason. It is something that is associated both with the risk factor and the disease, but need not be a risk factor for the disease under study. Let me try to explain what I mean. So, if you do statistics on it, you find quite a strong association between coffee and lung cancer. But smoking is a known risk factor for lung cancer. And smoking is associated with coffee drinking. But it is not the result of coffee drinking. I mean, you all see it. People that smoke, when they have a cup of coffee, they always smoke. Coffee drinking and smoking is connected. So that means that people that get lung cancer, they also drink a lot of coffee. But that doesn't mean that coffee is causing lung cancer. So, and in studies, there have been a lot of confusing factors. There's a lot of confusion by confounding factors. So coffee drinking and lung cancer association is a result of confounding by cigarette smoking. How do we perform randomization? Okay, we have two patient groups, and we want one group to go there, one group to go there. Well, the simplest is, okay, we have to randomize 50 patients. So we have 25 envelopes. Inside is a piece of paper said group this and this. We have 25 envelopes with a piece of paper saying it's going to the other group. Then we just mix them together like a deck of cards. And when you have such a situation, you just take out an envelope, open it. But nowadays we mostly use this by using computer programs. And if the investigations, for instance, as you can do it, you have like a core center, and you just go to, you have a special website, you could just go there, and you get the answer. Okay, the next patient with is that belongs to that group. Then you have 20 patients, a block of 20 patients, 10 in each group. They are randomized. When these are finished, then you go to another block with 20 patients. That you all the time you randomize an equal number. So this prevents that during the first 6 months, 80% of the patients belonging to this group and only 20, and there will be too much difference in time. So we have to decide what to measure. But then we have something called endpoints. We have one primary endpoint, that is the important, that is direct. For instance, the most, in patient studies, the strongest endpoint is death. I mean, we cannot discuss if a patient is dead or not. I mean, is death. And basically that is something that is most important for most diseases. But usually, it may sound a little strange to say it, but there are too few patients dying that this can be induced for measurement. So you have to find other measurement. And then you have something called, but you can have like strong complications, etc. You have something called secondary endpoints, which are secondary means that they are much less actually connected and important. It can be biochemical parameters, for instance, which have a lower value. And then it's a power study. How many patients are necessary to include? And this again will depend on the endpoints. We have inclusion criteria and we have exclusion criteria. Then if these are too strict, then we can end up into a problem. Maybe only 5% of patients with this operation or this disease are included. Then we find something that is valid for these 5%. But when we interpret it and try how can this influence our treatment, then we extrapolate it and say, what we found in these 5% is actually valid for 100%, and this we don't know. So if we make the inclusion and exclusion criteria too narrow, then we have a problem. On the other side, if we have very strict inclusion and exclusion criteria, then we get the more homogeneous patient group. And the more homogeneous the patient group is, the less we expect the variations to be. If we have a much broader patient group, then the variations are bigger and we need much more patients to include. And no patients is similar to other patients. So therefore, some of these clinical studies are actually very difficult to conduct to get the good groups, etc., etc. Okay, so instead of talking about endpoints, death, stroke, myocardial infarction, those are stronger endpoints. So second endpoints, release of some biochemical marker. There is something called composite endpoints. If we have that there are not enough patients that die, there are not enough patients that get a stroke, and not enough patients that get the myocardial infarction. But if we say the endpoint is that the patient either die or have a stroke or have a myocardial infarction, then suddenly we have a much bigger, let's say, endpoint, and this is what's called composite endpoint. There are weaknesses with this as well, because of course death is much stronger than myocardial infarction. So, but still, in order to get an endpoint that where we get a power for a study, this is sometimes necessary. Yeah. Okay. We calculate sample size, how many patients. It is the power of the study. I'm not going into too much details of this, but I say there's a common error to include too few patients, making it impossible to find any difference. This is so-called type 2 statistical error. I mean, I'll come back to this. A composite endpoint can greatly improve statistical power. For instance, if you do heart surgery, coronary artery bypass surgery, if you want to change something there, you will, and the mortality is very low for this kind of surgery, then you need, if death should be the endpoint, of course, death is the most interesting, then you need maybe 20 or 30,000 patients. And this is impossible. But if you combine these three, then you need maybe 2,000 to 3,000 patients, and that is possible. And secondary endpoints like biochemical parameters dramatically increase the power, then maybe 50 patients can be sufficient. So how to estimate power? You estimate the differences you expect to find, or sometimes you guess what you expect and decide, and then the computer program or the statistician can give you answer how many patients are necessary. And of course you have to choose the right patients, because the patient characteristics can importantly influence the power of study. For instance, if you want to study mortality, death, and let's say that only in this particular group of patients, 1% die in connection to operation, and if you want to see the difference in death, then it's impossible to do. But if you go into some really high risk patients that have a big risk to die, let's say there are also scores that can make us calculate this. Let's say the mortality risk for this high risk group of patients is 16%. Then it's much easier to find the difference. So wrong patients and low power are the two most common errors of clinical trials. So again, the statistician, I just say in all clinical studies involve a statistician. Preferably somebody who I could say is dedicated, who has interest in biomedical research. And very often it's clever to involve a statistician from the beginning when you're setting up the protocol, because they can see where there may be some statistical problems, so that we can actually change the protocol of study. And of course, a good statistician can always find some significant differences if they just look at enough parameters. And there are not all statistical differences that really are interesting. And if you analyze too many subgroups, then in the end of the day you always find something. You just should be a little careful with the interpretation. The message on this picture is that it's a big advantage when you do a clinical prospective randomized study that you actually are able to include all patients within 12 months. Because there's a tendency that enthusiasm is dying away with time. So when everything is new and fresh and people are enthusiastic, do as much as possible. So the conclusion, high quality randomized trials is a corrupt-proof randomization. There are possibilities where people have been trying to manipulate randomization. Blinding up, yes, all participants of course should be blinded to what groups are there. Study staff, the lab staff, etc., etc. I mean, those treating the patient should not know which group are they, and adhere to the study intervention and protocol, and have complete follow how they're doing afterwards. So about another topic, data, because if you have patients in the hospital, you can collect a lot of data them and have them into the database. This can be important, valuable, or to disaster. Because there's something, some dedicated person must be responsible for the database. If not, then it just becomes nonsense. And size plays a role. The bigger the patient volume is, the more information you can get from the database. And actually, I strongly recommend that clinics, in particular all university clinics, should have a database. Because over time, it's surprising how much information you can get. This will be retrospective study. You look at patients afterwards, and of course this is not as in no way as strong data as a prospective clinical study, but still. Also, many countries have a national database. I'm aware that the country size of Russia, this may be impossible. But in a country like Norway, where the population is similar to the population of St. Petersburg, we have a lot of national databases for heart surgery, for hip surgery, for breast cancer, etc., etc., etc. And it is easy to have these because we are not so many. Database, it should not be too detailed because there are some doctors and nurses in clinics have to fill in the forms. If they have to fill in 200 different data, in the end of the day they will do this a little too quickly. So this is a case where the perfect is the worst enemy of something good. Then also larger multinational databases where national data can be transferred. We have European databases, for instance, for heart surgery, but it's not all countries that contribute to it, but many countries contribute to it, and you can get a lot of you can get a lot of information. We'll say there is the Society of Thoracic Surgeons. They have a database by more with more than 1 million patients operated with heart surgery. Outcomes from databases have advantages and disadvantages, as everything else in life. But and advantages, they can. You don't. Once you have the database, it takes a lot of effort to establish it, and you need to put information into it. But once it's there, you can get it out with moderate resources. You just need a resource. And it's a good way to evaluate own practice and results. And sometimes, because this is very important, you can get how many patients died from this disease in our hospital, and are we doing as well as the rest of the world? Are we better? Are we worse? Disadvantages. No database is better than the information that is put into it. And this means let's say, for instance, you have 30 different information that should be put into the database. And then the doctor or nurse or whoever is filling this in cannot find 3 of them. So, and this is late at day and tired and fed up. So they just fill in everything except these 3 and let it go into the database. So there's missing information. And if this is a lot of, then the database may end up being almost without any value. Then of course, the perfect database should include everything about the patient. But then going back, we make it not rational to work with. If you put in too much information, and they don't give in the right. So therefore, there's a lot of information that will influence this, but not in database. But it's very important to get all information in, but don't be too ambitious because then it will fail. Yeah, there's something called. I just think I skipped that. Just go to the conclusion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jarle. Are there any questions about clinical trials or databases? We are not so much involved in this as yet. Okay. Then I announce a break, lunch break. We have it now until 2 p.m. So you have this time, feed up.
Are we already time with the program?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as my colleague said, we have a lunch right now. And for those of you who are not from this department, I can guide you about some places where you have to take a lunch. Just 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, who are not from this department, please be quiet for 1 more second. Yeah. So basically, right now we are here, and we have some amount of restaurants nearby. First of all, here you should get out from our department and get to this side of the street, right, for about 2 blocks, and there will be Chili Pizza Trattoria, and Italian one. Also, right across Chili Pizza, there will be one more restaurant which is called Parachute. It's also really good. And if you go to the left side and across the street, there will be Indian and Chinese restaurants. So these 4 are the best ones. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? I know in university is very common practice when you work couple years in one
Это не мы сотрудничаем, это институт фундаментальной медицины, который у нас лаборатория, которая подсоединена к нам. А мы сотрудничаем с ними. Вот. Так получилось, что Паша, он приезжает в первую очередь к ним. Вот. Но так получилось, что мы могли организовать здесь вот такую серию лекций. Вот, как видите, здесь много участников первого меда из института экспериментальной медицины, поэтому такая общая лекция для всех присутствует здесь. Вы еще все важно передаете для интервью. Ну да, понятно. Так, когда вы сейчас с ним, да? Хорошо. Я сейчас по своим делам. Вы здесь? Вот, я думаю, что минут 5-6 здесь.
Потом будет общее состояние еще все. Можно мы вернем? So what is the topic of your research group?
Memory research.
Memory research.
Yeah, on servers.
They're looking at the Department of Pathology in Pavlov University.
Yes, of course.
Supervisor.
That was in my first lecture at Pittsburgh was in 2000, and then was somebody was telling me there is this person at the Department of Physiology that are using isolated rat hearts. So I said, let me see this. So I came
So I came there and I saw his setup and to make a little 2 years later, Michel was a postdoc in Bayern. Yeah, for 1 year. It was one year, was it 1.5 or
1 year.
No, well, I have been there many times. I've been many times visiting in the public.
Actually, we've been there. That's fine.
We like it. Okay, Fisher, you have to go. You're making me feel like some celebrity.
Certain way you are.
Okay, you know way. There's no no, it all depends on the cancer of the so this each patient group is disease, each intervention has its own. And between different companies. This again depends on the mortality. If the mortality is high, it's much easier because then it's much easier to get statistical power. If the mortality is 1%, then you need 30,000 patients. But if it's 50%, then it's much easier.
Вы поговорили, да?
Я на самом деле решил все-таки, что пишу лекцию. Я, честно говоря, не придумал интересный вопрос, поэтому
Понятно.
я решил говорить ни о чем, не стоит. Владимир, вот можете мне, собственно, рассказать, опять же, почему вы решили позвать профессора Ваджи? Правильно пишется транслитерация, русский язык Ваджи, да?
Вроде бы, сами даже хорошо не знаю. Вот, но вроде бы вот так называют всем между делом все, поэтому мы его так и называем. Вот. А по поводу того, почему решили его позвать, все достаточно просто. Дело в том, что у нас есть на нашем факультете, на нашей кафедре такое направление, как биомедицина. Вот. Плюс ко всему мы сотрудничаем с Институтом экспериментальной медицины Алмазова. Вот. У нас есть совместные лаборатории, и как раз таки для того, чтобы повысить, во-первых, грамотность людей, находящихся в лабораториях, мы решили, что нам необходим специалист именно не просто, который бы объяснил, не просто, который бы, скажем так, улучшил какие-то профессиональные навыки всех студентов, а именно с точки зрения медико-биологии, и нам казалось, что студентам, медико-биологам это было бы интересно. Вот, поэтому как раз таки по программе сотрудничества вот этих вот двух лабораторий, нашей и Алмазова, мы решили, что нам необходимо пригласить такого специалиста.
Первый блок, насколько я понял, он был посвящен вообще в целом просвещению, ознакомлению начинающих молодых ученых с тем, что как говорить на работе.
Вообще основная программа Ваджи сейчас, которую он представляет здесь, она как раз таки направлена на молодых ученых, вне зависимости от того, занимаются они биомедициной или не занимаются биомедициной. Он прочитал в первом блоке 2 лекции, как писать успешно писать статьи, как писать тезис на конференцию. Сейчас он прочитал лекции, как быть молодым ученым, успешным вроде бы. Вот. И у него сейчас была биомедицинская лекция, затем еще одна биомедицинская лекция, и затем лекция, как успешно
успешно подавать заявки на гранты. Нечто вроде того, что делали, только 70-летним опытом, скажем так.
А скажите, вы мне рассказали про деятельность тактической ячейки, вы периодически проводите конкретно такие мероприятия,
Да.
более эффективно продвигать свою научную работу, более эффективно, скажем так, можете сказать, что это были за мероприятия просто?
Именно наши тактические ячейки?
Да. Ну, то есть, кого звали, что нас позвали?
Значит, мероприятия, которые проводятся у нас, мы, в принципе, можем делать мероприятия более локального масштаба, которые можем проводить сами. Дело в том, что у нас тоже есть определенный опыт у членов нашей ячейки, который мы можем делиться с другими ребятами. Вот. Относительно того, кого мы звали, у нас достаточно в этом году был достаточно большой список, прежде всего технических мероприятий, когда мы звали профессоров, во-первых, нашего университета, затем звали некоторых иностранцев. К сожалению, я по спискам так не могу располагать, я могу его скинуть потом, просто чтобы вы посмотрели, если вам необходимо. Вот. В основном это были технические мероприятия. Что же касается мероприятий вот таких по повышению профессиональных навыков в сфере написания статей, подачи заявок на гранты, то это на самом деле мероприятие в этом году первое в своем роде, вот такое большое, на которое приезжает действительно серьезный человек, но мы сейчас планируем позвать примерно с той же программой человека, скажем так, с мировым именем. Правда, это имя я не буду рассекречивать, потому что договоренности у нас с ним еще нет. Вот. Но я присутствовал на его лекциях на конференции в Сан-Диего, и меня очень сильно восхитило и поразило вообще манера изложения, то, что он говорит, и насколько правильно и ново для меня было то, что он рассказывал. Поэтому вот мы посвящались, я высказал свое мнение, что необходимо, чтобы другие члены нашей ячейки, а также студенты нашей кафедры обязательно его послушали. Оказалось, что у нашего президента есть даже его книга, о чем мы не знали. Вот. И сейчас мы ведем с ним активные переговоры для того, чтобы он весной приехал к нам и прочитал лекции вот по типу таких, которые мы слышали, да, того же формата и на самом деле примерно ту же тематику, вот, просто рассказывать немножко в другом ключе.
Можно еще вас попросить дать вот комментарий на такую общую тему, почему вообще, в принципе, вот такое обучение нужно? То есть все уже молодые ученые начинают с того, что там учатся в магистратурах, аспирантурах в университете, варятся в этой среде, но, скажем так, все равно приходится отдельно беседовать с учеными и выяснять у них секреты успеха. Почему такая ситуация вообще?
Дело в том, что научная группа, как вы сами понимаете, это довольно-таки большое количество людей. Вот. И не всегда научному руководителю удается контролировать всех людей и направлять их, говорить им, что им необходимо делать для того, чтобы становиться успешным. Вот. Обычно это как раз-таки оставлено на самих студентов. Вот. Они сами пытаются развиваться в этом ключе. С этой точки зрения, большинство студентов попросту не знает, с чего им начать и каким образом двигаться дальше. Вот, поэтому подобные лекции, они бывают очень полезны, просто по той простой причине, что неоткуда брать другую информацию. Бывает, что в научных группах просто нет людей, которые могут помочь. Есть люди, но они очень заняты. Бывает, что другие студенты просто очень стеснительны, чтобы кого-то спросить вот таким вот образом. Вот, поэтому эти лекции очень полезны. Плюс ко всему нужно понимать, что даже если научный руководитель или какой-то студент хорошо разбирается в данной тематике, не факт, что он может хорошо объяснить эту тематику своим подчиненным. Вот. А когда вы слушаете профессионала, то, естественно, информация осваивается гораздо легче, потому что его деятельность как раз таки направлена на то, чтобы все поняли, что он хочет сказать.
Спасибо, Владимир.
For this one? I think no, actually. For this one, no.
Если у вас напался вопрос, но вопрос
Да нет, ничего.
Скажите, вот такая техническая еще информация, сколько человек записалось?
Осталось порядка 50 человек, и еще 20 человек с нашего факультета, которые записались, вот мы рассчитывали на аудиторию порядка 80 человек. Вот. Это были люди, прежде всего, из лаборатории экспериментальной медицины Алмазова, затем из первого мира, вот, ну и из наших ребят, вот, с нашей ячейки и с нашей кафедры. Вот, мы рассчитывали на 80 человек, ну здесь практически, наверное, как я смотрел.
Вот какое-то следующее мероприятие, такое практическое, помимо конкурса, который сейчас проводится, проектов.
Ну, у нас уже приближается оптика сейчас, вот, она уже через 2 недели будет, поэтому сейчас все направлено на оптику. Вот, ну, кстати говоря, по поводу этого мероприятия, этой лекции, вот мы тут вчера собрались и подумали, что для членов нашей ячейки, которые не могут присутствовать на этом мероприятии, мы сделаем для них прямую трансляцию. Я сейчас сижу на ноутбуке и снимаю все, что говорит Владимир.
Это
кидаю на YouTube.
трансляцию в YouTube.
Да.
Они же после того, как трансляция непосредственно заканчивается, остаются видеоролики, да?
Да, помню.
Так что, пожалуйста, посмотрите на несколько пропустить. Спасибо вам большое.
Ну, не за что. Все, да. Да, а вы собираетесь здесь оставаться?
Да.
Про телеком-конференцию.
Мы не предсказуем. Да, конечно.
Посмотрите, пожалуйста,
Yeah, he's always doing
You're obsessed with that. I'm going to take that part and break it.
Shall we all?
Yeah. Yeah, but he got so many things to show off, see? Yeah, he's good looking.
New girlfriends.
I don't know about that. Don't take pictures of me. Supposed to listen. No. No.
You know better. Turning to the side of the light so you can see your face better. Do you know anything about cameras at all?
No, it's only you that knows.
Yeah, so it's apparently, yes.
Bro, it's my picture. I don't know your opinion for it.
I don't know
Yeah,
you.
I don't need your opinion.
I mean, this is me to take on that side.
Bro, I don't need your opinion. I can get a picture.
But it's so awful with that.
How do you know it's awful?
You know shit's not any shit.
Yeah, it's only you. It's only you that knows shit. It's good that you know shit.
I'm sorry being a friend with you. It's such a waste of Just kidding, by the way. Excuse me. I think people were always purchasing something higher.
What?
People were purchasing something higher. And by the fact that you just keep shooting the shoulder from the side to the back of the light. I'm kidding. Okay. I'm not.
Yeah. Where? Home? Where? Do you know the way? Yeah, it's on the way. أفضل يضرب لي كاميرا. And what did you say to him? What did you say?
I just say that about the way he should be the chaos is like the lights here, you just go away. I just told him like doesn't matter where it's like I mean now you know the better efforts why I use it. I don't know, my voice has so much influence.
You mean a lot to him?
Awkward.
Maybe I don't know.
There's no maybe I despise him.
I said, yeah, you, but he may not. Maybe you mean so much to you.
He just like constantly looks at you right? I want someone who I can look up to.
Sure, I understand.
Да, просто без
Алло, вы где? Куда пошли? Да. Да, во сколько начнется?
На одних либо всегда что записать. Нужно специально. Камеру закрывать. Я за пакетом.
Я просто душ. Я вот смущаюсь. Она настаивает. Я смотрел. Я знаю, ты любишь, когда тебя вот так делают. Вот там же песни испортил. Вот там. Рядом чувак со мной что-то. Я это просто испортил. Она, короче, увлекается тем, что можно подобрать, то, что никому не нужно, и привезти домой. Почему?
Ну-ка, она делает? Да. Она белая была?
Хорошо, я тебе пошлю черно-белую.
Дайте я посмотрю, да?
Не дам я тебе смотреть, да? Я там нет все. Так, черно-белое. Там глаз твой. Чтобы я на своем телефоне плохо был. Бедный, потому что у него птичек. Если спать, он не спать.
Не надо было такого маленького.
Нормально. Я вот это думаю. Да. У меня мамаша не еврейская, но она точно такая же. Хотя припадки ты на конференции.
Ты тоже на конференции, шоколад, свет, шоколад.
Что ты считаешь, сколько я сейчас? Тебе такие жалобы. Вот я с горя и ем. Ранее меня любили. Я тут просто втоптали руки. Не знаю, я ждал. Дагестанских пескушек. Вот, ладно. Специально для тебя. Если ты где это не знаешь, то люди такие. Владимир Борисов. Все, зажигай. Нормально, потанцуем, там танцуем. А на пол тебе поставить? Не двигайся. Вы окружены, сопротивление полезно.
Давайте по-английски исправим. Адеба что это? Акаба или что? Адеба что? Адеба это
Экономия,
большая часть работы, но кроме исторической части, большая часть это самое сразу в регион Испании, то есть транспорт, да, то есть все были производные просто исторические, они поддерживают это свое впечатление, что наши налоги входят в центр, и потом как бы специально не возвращаются. А там, самое-самое, все производства, строения,
А вы вообще там, никак не выходила, так и не выходит. А вот это английский знает, да? Сколько? А вот это английский знает, да? А там, а это маме надо? Маме, ну, там есть девочка, переводчица, которая там по делам там работает. Она сейчас беременная. Короче, его тоже надо, должна вот процесс.
Тоже неделю
Я хочу этот мир. Бля, он попадал в черняк. Не, это у индианки.
Не, ну это же тоже потому, что она принимала это.
Так, я возьму вот это вот. Так, я выбираю вот это, вот это, вот этого, они покрепче, а остальных не знаю, я думаю. Активный казарь.
Да нет, если нечего, то сколько бы их не было,
Нет, я не без этого простимулировали еще шустренький. Это какая-то анекдот, типа, выключай свет, они походу на него реагируют.
Да, да, да.
Я, короче, жену отправлю в Узбекистан. И точка, и точка.
А зачем считать, что просто...
Да, что там, как бы считать, что мальчик был? Чисто в каких календарях? Вот я много с математикой учила, она не просчитает. Все, я отправлю свою жену к фермеру.
И она цифры, что написано, даты, там какие-то там планеты были, когда ты родилась, не достигли, и что-то там.
Чаю делают.
У меня тоже примерно такое же картинка.
Просто возьми,
когда уже классно.
опять погиб.
Нет, календарь это тут дальше, да, считать, разбирает месяц, а потом, короче, выставляет месяц.
I brought something more. It's not good enough. Are you guys going to the taxi?
Yeah.
I don't know, I can see.
Своим хвостиком. Потому что точка повесить. Самый ужасный подстол. Как бы не слишком строгий для девочек. Не люблю делать. Вообще. Да, отвечаю. Я даже их на руки не беру. Ну тебя хороший, красивый. Ну ты что, смеешься? Слышал? Послушай внимательно, женщина. Согласись, клевый человек. Подколка клевый.
О, ну не пойдем.
Ну слушай, ну остается, что
You have to be ideas in your head.
Как назло, я вот отвечаю, прям девочка. Вот реально, будешь все методы перебирать, там, все возможные, невозможные, все сделать, чтобы был мальчик.
Yes, sure.
Ты как у меня один знакомый. Первая жена, 2 девочки. Вторая жена, 1 девочка. Третья жена, 1 девочка.
Then if you said that yesterday, you told her, oh, I just have to go and buy something. Then she left, she didn't come back for 10 years. They couldn't call her. And she came back to me, no, I never went back. I'll come to work. This morning could have been before I left the hospital. No, she didn't come, she didn't call her, she couldn't call her at 10 years. So, oh, that's why I went to work. Maybe you have to take money to my apartment. There are some people there to take care of it. Go ahead, go and look at it.
Это может быть потратить.
So she has to, now she's on her way there.
Как ты?
But she doesn't want to keep money. The apartment's apparently full. So she arranged to come stay.
Обязательно, что ли, живу?
That was the arrangement.
Далеко не обязательно живу.
Well, that's so serious.
Я для себя сделаю. Я вот не надо жены
This и maybe.
Я
So thanks. I'm going to the next 2 years.
проклинаю.
A little bit too soon, but I will remember the challenge. Two more lectures.
The next one is
За 10 лет
The farmers are both in Russian and one like that.
actually surgery is not Russian. He Russian.
Я в детстве мечтал, что у меня будет 12.
He is American.
Yeah, but he's Russian. He was born in Russia.
Yeah.
So, how come I'm seeing different names there?
Дедушки была такая семья. Витька, Володька, Валька, Лёшка, Герка,
So CEO is still on that day. Who is boss? So who is boss? He is boss?
No, the founder is the boss. But I mean,
Я не обратил внимания.
Просто
по привычке.
Sure.
Ты идешь ко мне? Ты идешь ко мне? Ну не знаю, ты не будешь. Не, у меня надо прийти. Я не буду было бы ну, через военный метод. Мне желание говорить. Ну, это один из пунктов. Второй это графа. Буду погибать по воды. Буду погибать. Кто-то готов?
Алло, привет, ты где? МК с тобой? Ты едешь в главное или уже обратно?
Я же нужен все, но не определяю.
Самое страшное, там ребята помогут.
Okay, or maybe supporting I don't know how, but he's doing very well in the polls. It's just 1% behind Trump. Not Trump. Trump is not. Of course, Trump cannot be president. But somehow he's leading in all polls. I don't know. This one I don't know. He talks so arrogant. He talks so easy about the women. I don't know how, but he's leading. this one 21% and crossing is 20%. Yes, yes. Definitely very difficult. But I don't think the Republican Party really get the tickets to myself. It's not a character of the the council is an essence. It's brilliant.
Побольше тебя? А.
I wouldn't be surprised if the response is not but just because I love but really, we do not like the sex. The person is not like the person, he doesn't like it and he says, but I doubt if he's going to get the Yeah, sure. He's not going to get because he's too feeling to be a president. These guys are doing so many things that he's for example, Philip was saying that the immigration problem right now is Syria and it was extremely American and wanted to get according to what he said, the young population of other European population and countries that the democracy that gives them so many cool people. So every epidemic will contribute back to so many young people there. And this is the only way to do it. I mean, what I'm very serious. This immigration issue is not something that was that people that did it just to displace people. Assuming that it's president, it is true. She's not really doing it well. She's very desperate to be a first president She's desperate and there's so many that's why email issues, private issues. I think I don't know. Definitely nothing. Although it's doing well, it has to shift and recently the state of the support the Muslim he's not supporting the Muslim
Че ты? Ну, главное поедешь сейчас. Что? У кого? В главном или здесь? В главном или здесь?
Я так понимаю, наверное, пожалуйста.
Прям поиграем. Прям поиграем.
Что я сейчас сказала?
Пойдем поиграем.
Я просто думала, ты такой сможет.
А, нет.
Я вот это поняла.
Нет.
Inherited his wealth, look like the Johnson, his father gave him his wealth. Okay, yes, it's very he has a married 3 times. Anyway, you will make mistakes 3 times. I'm sure. When is Black Friday? You know what's Black Friday?
No, I want to know what it is. I just decided that I should know what it is. Yeah, sure. No, because I have to go. I'm not going to the book, I'm going to. That's why I actually speaking to what is going Sure, usually 80% of 80 to 90% of foreigners speak Russian like that. My former country spoke Russian. One day the Russian girlfriend told him I spoke Russian to my grandmother. She was black. But for him, he feels he spoke Russian very well. I think the conflict is it's okay. Don't take it personal. The language is very easy. Don't get this off. It's okay. Try to speak and don't try to change the language. Just people in there understand what you're saying. Yeah, but it doesn't have to try to change your accent. The Russian cannot change his Russian accent when he speaks English. It's impossible. It's almost impossible. Yeah. You know, just try, for me, Russian language is about communication. Don't worry about language. Some people are very clear. She wasn't very social. We went to a bank one day. She did the medical insurance, and then the following day she said she doesn't want to do it. She wants the bank to give her back her money for me to refund her. We told her, okay, you have the right to wait down. At the moment, on the spot, she told us this paper and we wrote to write in Russian language. I was like, what is wrong with you? I was over and I wanted to die. She
Some people don't do that actually. I mean, I want to do that. Are you back to your seat? I don't make that.
Deu uma máquina de café do cara. Agora nenhuma tá funcionando, nenhuma nem outra. Meu Deus, cara. Quem tomou outro tomou, quem não tomou, não vai tomar mais. Esse lá tá bom.
Okay, so let's start again. I think I spend approximately 1 month, at least 1 month every year, writing applications for us to get money. No research. Because basically we have almost no money in the system without we have to write again. So it is to be successful with your grants applications, and this is not an easy thing to do. Actually, it doesn't look so good on the screen, but on my computer screen, the background color was yellow like gold, and this should be so. If you're successful, you get gold, you get money. I have to say that I have got more negative response to applications than most. I have a great record on successful applications. But sometimes you must be successful for a certain percentage so that you can continue to do your research. What you learn a lot from is to evaluate applications for money that other people write. And actually I have learned much more from that than writing applications myself. Because when you do something yourself, you're a little blind. But when you see what other people have written, you see clearly what is good, what is bad. And what is very interesting is to evaluate application for research money versus with the European Union, because there is like something between 6 and 10 people evaluating the same application, and they are from different specialities, different languages. So it's you learn a lot from and getting inputs from completely different other views. So I would try to summarize what I think is important. These are my private views. I know that some of them people agree with me on, others they may not agree with me. But once again, read the instructions for the application. Today all applications that we have sent for money are electronic, they're online. And there, once you have submitted, there is no return. If you do wrongly, you may risk that it is just discarded because it didn't fit in with the format it should be or whatever. So it's very important to read what shall be included, because they need some documents for that and that, and then it's the design of the application. So read the instructions once again and again and again. And exactly like the paper, the manuscript, the first thing read is the abstract. And this I know myself. You read the abstract and then you think, this is bullshit, or this is great, or it's in between. It has such a strong impact. And then you should start with the introduction, and so much down on the first page you should come with some punchlines, really saying how wonderful this is, how important it is, and well, it should have some substance in it, of course. But when you have the abstract and the first page, then 50% of the decision is met. This sounds maybe a little superficial, but I think that's how it is. Remember, after all, reviewing is subjective. And of course, it is the news value. Is this something new, or have you heard it before? You see how similar this is to writing a manuscript. But there's something special here, because some of these large applications takes days and weeks to write and prepare. And you work on the description of the whole research program. And then, when you're finished, then a few hours before submitting, you just put together an abstract too. And spend much time on the abstract. It is the first impression, and first impressions are so important. And emphasize in the abstract what is new and what is important in this research program. The background is more or less the same as in a manuscript, but of course much detail. In a manuscript it should be pretty short and concise. Here you can have it broad and be detailed in why it's important, what knowledge is lacking. And again, the punchline. This comes because that comes in the introduction. The background information should be a logical build-up why the present research program ought to be done. Because there is a need for what I can give you. You must create this. This is like commercials on TV. They're creating a need to buy exactly this thing. If you really are good, you produce a need that this project is done. Then, in the introduction, you have to demonstrate as a principal investigator, you and the team as a whole have extensive knowledge in the field, because here you demonstrate your knowledge, that you know what is already there, what is necessary, etc. And this is the background of the aims and the purpose of the research. Because with what you already have told, then you put forward a hypothesis and state the purpose of the study. And again, state clearly the hypothesis behind the research program. And then there comes something different from a manuscript, because here you have a main purpose and you have secondary purposes. I mean, the main purpose is, if we can do this, fewer people will die from that. I mean, that's a big, ambitious, but it should be like noted. But the secondary purpose is what comes on the way. We will learn more about this specific kind of cancer. We will learn that as a part. But so, I mean, when this is like Russia and USA, they have space programs. They want to send people to the moon or Mars or whatever. But this, and that is the main purpose. But there's a lot of secondary purposes or gains, because there are a lot of inventions and products, because the research is so high tech and very advanced. There are coming a lot of products that are coming into our daily life that are spin-offs from space programs, and they are secondary purposes. You understand what I mean? Okay. Yeah. So you have, this is an own factor. This is not, but you can say that you have the background in the introduction is one chapter, and actually the hypotheses and purposes should be stated in one own small chapter, and point 1, 2, 3. Don't put it in a lot of text. Just read purpose, one sentence, 2, one sentence, like this. And so it's clear that the hypothesis and the purposes are way from the main text. And then you have another chapter. This can sometimes come in the end. This can sometimes come earlier in the application, like after hypothesis. But we should say, what are the short-term benefits? And what are the long-term importance? How can this lead up to or be the basis of something even more important in the future? Because you always have some short-term benefits, and you should have a wider perspective. You should think, how can this solve something in the future? And for what and for whom is this important? Is it important for individuals, for you and me? Is it something more important for society in general? Or is it just important for science? I mean, it broadens the knowledge in this field. Sometimes all this can be. And then I say, have a discrete modesty. Don't be too modest. means don't try to say that this is absolutely revolutionary and something as good as this has never happened before, because it can be a little too shameless. But on the other side, if this is new and good, you should also say it. I say, have a discreet modesty, but don't be too modest. And this is also something, can this be commercialized? Is there any possibility that work can create a product, a drug that may have a financial impact? And for instance, in applications from that an organization to the European Union, they give a lot of money to research in Europe. They are very often actually demanding that as a part of it, if you have some of these big team plans, you should have some company involved with so that they see that there's a possibility for commercialization. And if the possibility is develop into patents, they just love it. The models, the materials and methods. You have put up purposes, perfectly sure that the techniques, models, materials, etc. used are able to answer these purposes. If they cannot do that, then you are definitely rejected. Sometimes people don't see this. So tell about what the models have. And they don't, and standard models and methods don't have to be described in details. But if it's some very uncommon method, you have to describe it in details. And then, of course, it is interesting, are these methods running and away in the institution? If they're running and available, it means that there's no problem in developing a lot of hard work to develop new methods. And this is something that's secure that the work can be done. But sometimes, if you can say that we are, as part of the study, we're also developing some revolutionary new method, it is a potential limiting factor, because maybe you don't manage to develop a method, or you will spend, instead of spending 3 years, you will spend it. Also, to develop new methods is regarded as something positive. But if you plan to develop a new method, then it is very important that you describe the competence of the group. Is it probable that you have the competence and the ability to develop a new method? Now, you have to discuss a little on the material used for biomedical, also the limitation of cell cultures compared to the living organism. Then you must describe the team. Who are actually going to do this? And sometimes, but this is not common now, that somebody is working alone. Usually, there is a principal investigator that is collaborating with other groups. The principal investigator is the one that sends the application. He or she will have some people around that do the work, and they will have partners, co-workers in other institutions, and you just have to describe briefly what can this team do. And then it's very important, how can each partner contribute to the whole program? What is the task or the role of the partner, or are they all necessary? I mean, if there are two partners that can do exactly the same thing, why are they both included? You have to say that every partner add something to the whole team. This is especially for the principal investigator and maybe one or two more central partners. You have to describe more in details about them and how big is a group, what techniques they have, what is the main field of research, particular strength, etc. But still it can be done briefly. Then again, read the instructions. Some want to have the CV of the principal investigators. Others want to have CVs of at least 3 partners if there are so many, etc. So, and there's something that this is collaboration between different professionals, for instance, medicine and engineering. And for instance, the collaboration between ITMO and Almasov would my country be regarded as something extremely interesting, something that we're working across professional borders. This is a big strength for an application for money. Then they're asking, is there some collaboration on a national level? For instance, are you collaborating, for instance, in Tomsk or Novosibirsk or wherever? Collaboration there, that is important. And they're also interested in international collaboration. And then there's international collaboration. There are some politically preferred countries, which actually means that government and research council have said that we are especially interested in collaborating with these countries for whatever reason. For instance, there is a special Russia is a politically preferred country in Norway when it comes to research on fisheries and oil. This is especially located to the northern hemisphere. But my medical faculty in Oslo has an agreement of collaboration with Almasov Institute and also Pavlov University, and I'm a part of that collaboration. If you're working with animals and humans, you have to take care of the ethical part of this, because especially and you have to apply to have the permission to do the things, and this how you think to solve this must be stated very clearly in an application. If then, sometimes you already have touched into this field upon the project, and have some even small data included in the application. It shows that you are already on the right way. In particular, if you finish a project, present at conferences. Figures in data. And you show some figures. I will use a picture to illustrate how important this is. I'm living, since my wife died last year, I'm living together with 2 daughters, 19 and 21 years old. Since I weigh a lot, they are spread out themselves out in the total all house. They use the sofa as a wardrobe. I come there, I'm sitting in the clothes, I get so angry. thought the girls were so tidy, but they just make a mess, find clothes. Suddenly I'm sitting in the sofa, what do I find? This, it's a female underwear. And they are so small. They weigh nothing. And I know the price of this is so expensive. So I'm telling them, I think the price of these things that you put on is per gram must be gold. Well, they just say to me that, okay, you are so stupid. But it is that a figure with data is the same value per gram or per data as the female underwear. Because if you actually can show a figure data that is, and you are already there working, it's like gold or female underwear. This makes the application much stronger than if it has no data in this particular field. So, a research program consists of different projects within it, because there are different problems of solving. We call them work packages, just projects. And each package must be described and contain, it's like a mini program. The hypothesis, what, and very important, what partners are involved? And why is it necessary that these partners are here? Can you, because if it just looks like two partners are doing the same thing, it's extremely negative. You know that each partner is complementary to the whole team doing this. And not all partners need to be a part of all work packages. Because, for instance, you have a principal investor and you have 6 co-workers or partners. So for work package 1, maybe the principal investor is always involved. Maybe partner 3 and 4 is involved. Work package 3 in principal investigator, partner 2, 4, and 6. And like this. And you have to describe this, why are they necessary? And what methods are used? This can be quite brief. Then you also have to show or tell. You cannot show it but you can tell. You can. What can you deliver, and when can you? So you should give a plan for how the program should proceed, and this must be realistic. For instance, you can put this into tables or different curves or whatever. It is very often and descriptive here. So for the first 6 months of 2016, work package 1 will be done. Work package 2 and 3 will be done in parallel to 2016, and during the first 6 months of 2017, data processed during doctoral thesis finished spring 2019. And you have to put up a work schedule that is realistic. The work plan should be realistic. What often is the case that applicants load into it everything they wish they could do, and this just means that the whole thing is totally unrealistic, and this is a sure way of being rejected. It is almost never that the schedule is too small in volume. It's too small in quality, but not in volume, because people load into it. And it has to be, you have to make it likely that the team can finish what they have planned during the period of the grant. As you get the grant for 3 years, and then you are supposed to finish this. One thing is that there may be a future way to go, but what you have included into your application should in principle be finished. But it is allowed to say that some data processing and writing of manuscripts will maybe be in the year after, but all experiments should be done. An unrealistic plan, no grant. Then there are risks. Everybody who has done experiments, research knows research does not always follow the intentional pathway. Suddenly things doesn't work. Results you get are crazy, or they're the opposite of what you expected, and something is up there and something is down there, and you don't know what is wrong. And the model doesn't work, etc. In your application, you should describe some limitations, some potential difficulties, and some risks. There are always risks like this. And I said, then you should, if you describe some risks that are most likely, some problems, then you should have how to solve these problems. Have a plan D. And there's a saying we have, maybe we have it in Russia as well, the fox always have two exits. So you should be the fox and have an alternative route if the first fails. Because this you have a mature and scientific mind. And even if there is a problem, then the problem is still not a failure because you have a way to bypass it. Or you have been thinking at least about how you could do it. So, I hope this can help you to find it. Thank you very much. I see that the audience is quite young. This means that you are not still writing applications for money. I think so. You don't have any questions for this. But I'm happy if you have. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a small question. How can we demonstrate our competence?
How you demonstrate your competence?
Yeah.
Well, you already have done it by having an intellectual introduction showing that you know the field. That is one thing. Then you send your CV to publications, which speaks for itself. Then you list up what techniques, models you can do. That your track record, what have you done? What are you able to do experimentally with methods, techniques, technologies, and also showing an intellectual knowledge to the field. This combined, and of course, set up a good program in itself is showing competence. I didn't mention, but in an application for grants, you also need you write intellectual and you use references like in a manuscript. But you should be very critical and not include too many. But you need key references to what you write, especially in the introduction.
Oh.
Yes.
Labels of purposes. For example, I want to make a spectral database, and to use this spectral database to work with some chemical analysis. Then this chemical analysis can be applied in some investigations in chemistry, and then this in medicine and
Yes. Okay. You and I said something. The impact. You have some short-term impact, which is making this database. And the long term is what you describe how this can be used to. And I said you can describe who actually benefit from this. Is it some person? Is it Russia as a nation? Is it the scientific community? And yeah, you can be a little pompous about this.
I have one question. I'm not sure if I have to stand up.
No.
My question is related with one of the previous presentations, actually, when you were talking about a kind of investigation which something safe, something with high risk and so on. For example, if you want to apply for a grant on the investigation, for example, high risk one. In that case, you know that for some reason this investigation can have negative results, let's say like this.
Yes.
And from this side, from the one side, you have to be, I think, honest with the people to whom you give investigation. But from the other side, the impact depends from if it will succeed or if not. So what should we do in that case? We should somehow tell about this one, and if yes, how we should do that?
Well, one thing is, at least in Scandinavia now, the research councils and different organizations that give money, they actually say we're interested in having some high-risk projects. They don't call it high-risk projects, but that this is what they mean. Because high-risk projects are regarded to be more innovative. More new information, and then you don't know. But then, if you set up like a research program with different partners, there are so many work packages in this. Maybe you have like 9 work packages, and even if one fails, the 2 other works. So there will always be something, but you're no guarantee that the main purpose that you actually went for, that you succeed with it. But you will still have results that will maybe be important for science in general or whatever. So it is not that when you set up, when I'm talking about high risk, I'm talking about this individual thing that a student may be asked to do. But here, it is like there are so many. You have so many balls in the air. So therefore, or something may fail, or will fail, but hopefully most of it will succeed in some way. Or maybe, and also this that you see something is different from you expected, and you can change on the way. Because when you get money for a project, at least with us, we don't have to follow what in the grant application, because sometimes we just go in that direction because we see during our studies we see that that's where we should go. I mean, it is impossible to give details what you will do in 2 years.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so let me see if I can. So where is the last one? Fraud. This is actually something I think is very interesting. Sure. Fraud and plagiarism in biomedical research. There have been studies where people ask scientists, how often did you present false results or did something unethical in your research? like an ethical meaning, doing something with your results of your research. And then they do a meta-analysis of this. This means that somebody looks into, like, find all the papers published on this, and they make like a summary of it. So this is quite important because it actually sums up the available literature. And you see, 2% of scientists admitted to have fabricated, falsified, or modified data at least once. And 1/3 admitted what they called other questionable research. But what is very interesting, 2% had done it themselves. But they know that 14% of their colleagues had done it. So there's all reason to believe that this number here is far too low. Of course, they may be jealous of some of the colleagues, so they just say they falsify things, so maybe this is artificially high. But this is, when I saw this, I was surprised. I was almost in shock. How is it really like this? I was a little naive and I thought, if people don't do this. Then I checked with the 3 big journals for cardiac surgery, and all editors at that time said that they had experience with fraud. But in heart surgery, there's been no big public scandals like many other physiology in Germany. And the reason for this is that during heart surgery, there were 2 different groups, and he had measured the cytokine interleukin 6 in 2 different groups. Then there was a reader who had done this and was looking at these error bars and said, this cannot be right, because when you measure interleukin 6 during heart surgery, we have error bars like this, as you said. So this looks very strange. So and the one who commented on this wrote to the editor of the journal, Anesthesia and Analgesia. And then the editor wrote to the University of Joachim Bolt and said that this is very strange. And when they started to check on this, it turned out that there were no patient data or lab data to support the findings. No measurements had been performed. Co-authors of the article denied participation in the fabrication. Professor Bolt admitted forging the signatures. Yeah, because the co-authors did not even know they were on the paper. And he had forged signatures of the co-authors on the copyright transfer. The study wasn't done at all. Everything was invented. Yeah. Actually, this Joachim Bolt had for like 25 years been quite a famous international anesthesiologist with a lot of publications that directly influenced patient treatment. And when they looked into his production, which was numerous, it actually, the different journals retracted altogether 80 articles from fraud. 80 articles. So why do we do this? Well, you want reputation, you want a high reputation of being a fantastic scientist. You need, and if you have a lot of good publications, it increases your possibility for money. And then there is this publish. If you want to survive in the scientific world, you have to publish. it's good for your career. Maybe you're paranoid that someone else is close to be published, so you rush yours through and you add some false data. There can be pressure from a demanding boss that you have to laziness, financial greed, even mental illness. I've had personal contact with fraud. There was, in the lab, there was a guest researcher from another country. It was not Russia. He presented me some data, looked very good. For some reason, I don't know why, I asked to see his lab records directly, the raw data. And suddenly I realized that not all of these were included. And I asked why. No, the answer was they did not fit the scheme, so they must be wrong. Then I had collaboration with a collaborating lab in a southern European country, and I got the data. And I reacted that the standard deviations was again suspiciously small. This is one of the ways you can get suspicion that the data just looks too nice. And by checking the raw data, I got somebody there in Europe. It showed that some outliers were excluded, and the person in the team there responsible for this was fired. Then a guest scientist asked me to read and correct the manuscript he was writing. And let me say immediately, I have had worked with many people in Russia, but there are no Russians involved in this. More details plus greatly improved statistics were necessary. But he said that this was impossible because when he had left his mother institution, they had cleaned out his desk and thrown everything away. No data was away. And then he was with me here, and when 2 years after he had gone home, I saw this manuscript being published in a high-ranked journal with perfect statistics. I have no proof, but I have a strong suspicion that this was a fabrication. Plagiarism. Well, one thing is intellectual theft. You can present someone else's ideas and work as your own. And then you have what's called intellectual sloth, is a part of plagiarism. This is using the word of another author to avoid the effort of writing a new text. Or you just take a part from somebody else's article and put it into your own because you feel that this was done so well. One reason for doing this is for us that are non-English native speakers. We have an added problem with this. So we can take some sentences or a paragraph and put in. So authors are comfortable with scientific English sentences from other authors. This, you cannot just do this. Then you have self-plagiarism. This is allowed. An author can, you have done some wonderful work and you describe your method. Then you have a follow-up work where you are basically using the same methods. So you can copy your own methods. You cannot steal from yourself. So that is allowed to take from in a way, because So what happens when this is discovered. Yeah, you can get a little unpleasant mail saying that, okay, we have seen that this algorithm, and okay, we have that and that consequences, but it's not something for lifetime. But basically, you can be banned from all major international journals because the chief editors, they have like registered for people coming up. So if they're coming in an article from one with this name to one of these journals, the red flag comes up. You can be banned from publishing in the major international journals. And the journal that have this plagiarism, they will make a big notice in the next number that this article was a plagiarism, so it was retracted. And they may write to the university, to the institution, and say this scientist is just copying what others do. This may again have serious consequences for you in your own institution, where you regarding money and other things. And in the end, it may also be a legal case because there's something about copyright here. This is from the journal I was associate editor. This is so easy to see, but this is retraction notice. It said that this paper that published earlier is now retracted. And here's the reason, you cannot see it, the authors have plagiarized part of a paper that has already appeared in another journal. So, you take basically all or part of an article in another journal and send the manuscript to this journal. Yeah, this is another example. The authors, corrigendum, the authors regret to have reproduced a portion of text from, the authors regret when they didn't know it. Of course, they knew it when they did it, but now they are sorry because they were discovered. So when you do this, you will be caught. Because there's software now available for manuscript processing systems which detect plagiarism, and whistleblowers are out there. This is just an example. This is plagiarism checker. This is also for essays written by university students, and can be detected by these. And this is, you can take, let's say, a few sentences from an article, put it into Google Scholar, and suddenly you get the list of articles where the same sentence are there. Now it's so that some sentences within the field may come again and again without really being plagiarized. It needs more than just a sentence. But this is just an example how sensitive some of these programs are. The programs are so sensitive that you find much more plagiarism than there actually exists if you start checking. So, maybe you think that the text in this article you read, or the figure, is absolutely wonderful. And for instance, what they wrote in that article is exactly what you think yourself. So, you actually wanted to have that paragraph or 2 paragraphs or whatever into your own article. But that is very easy. You can just say, I agree with, and then you put this in and you use brackets. You mark it as it's copied and you give a reference. That's allowed. You can take a big part into your article if you just are honest about it. When it comes to figures, you should write to the journal and ask for permission. And then you have, if you want to copy a figure, and then in the end of the figure that you should just write presented with the permission from that and that journal. It's all okay. And if you, for whatever reason, I cannot really think what reason that should be, but if you want to copy larger segments of an article, then you should ask for permission from the copyright owner. But you have a lot of freedom to copy from other papers if you tell it. This is what I did. This is so good what these authors write, so I just I agree with it, what they write, and then you just tell what they write, but you put it in brackets and give reference. Then it's the dirty thing. If you have a rotten egg or rotten apple, whatever you call it, among you, and somebody in the group come up with false data, then the whole group is responsible. Because formally, all authors, including co-authors, are expected to have made reasonable attempts to check findings submitted to academic journals for publication. Usually you find out who is the crook, who did this. But still, it is very unpleasant because you feel that even if you're yourself totally innocent, you feel that you get dirt on you. And this it's just unpleasant. When you're working in a team, you also have a trust in each other. I mean, none among us go in and check the details of the data that one of your close collaborators working beside you present. So, I mean, that would be paranoia. So, this is a little special. Then, we have something interesting. Simultaneous submission of scientific findings to more than one journal or duplicate publication. That is called misconduct. Okay, you find you have done a project, and you write the manuscript, and you format it to journal A. Then you also format it according to the format of journal B, and you send it both ways. Maybe you are accepted in both places. As I will say that is high risk. Is today with when everything is on the internet and easy to find, this will come up. I think that maybe 20 years earlier this was much easier. This was easier to get away with. There's one thing. Authors are expected to keep all study data. We have at University of Oslo that all data should be, there are people working in the lab, they have these big lab protocols, and each page has a number. So if one page is missing, you can easily see it. And you have to keep this stored. It's not your private property, it's a private property of the institution, and they have to store it there for 10 years. Yeah. Then you have this about conflict of interest. Sorry. Yeah, conflict of interest, and then also the ethical aspects. Then you have something called redundant publication. I mean, all this nomenclature is partly overlapping. Some call it that, some call it that. But it's just important. This is, you have published a paper, then you Then you do a little more, or maybe not, but more or less the same. And you have two papers. Turns out that the hypothesis is similar, sample size similar, the methodology is almost identical, the results are more or less the same, or at least one author is common to both reports, and no little new information is available. I mean, if you, this is not a criminal thing, but it's misconduct, and it will stick on you if it's discovered. But this is just a little talk. So, types of redundant publication, it can be totally, so it's just double publication. It can be like, okay, let us say in patient study, you have discovered some wonderful new therapy that is totally revolutionary, and this has so far been tested in 12 patients. Since it's revolutionary, it can be published with 12 patients. If you put before everyone died and now everyone lives, then you have 3 more patients, and then you write a new paper with 15 patients when the first 12 are included. That is what we call minor development. And then we have the salami technique. This is, you have done an experimental study, then maybe you have 6 groups of something, then you cut away one group and you add another group, and you still publish with 6 groups, 4 of among which are the same. So you just slice on a little new each time, but you keep some of the old. This is the salami. But then there's one thing. To be published in different languages are always often allowed. What does this mean? Yeah, I say the scientific language of the world is English. So it's usually allowed to write something in a national journal, in a national language, and then publish it in English. But you have to give the information both to the editor where it was originally published, and also to the new journal editor that this was published. So you can publish in Russia and then writing the same thing in an international journal. But you must let the editors of both journals know it. It's also sometimes okay to publish something in an international journal, because then there are very few from your own country that reads it. But then it might be important that the national audience also can read it, so you publish it in your own language. But again, the editor of the journal where the first published and the next one must know about it. And also abstracts. I talked about this earlier. You can present an abstract and then make a full paper. That's all right. Yeah, this is another example of retraction to redundant publication. So, all scientific misconduct, don't do it, you will be caught. Thank you very much. Well, if there are any questions, yes?
Yeah, actually, I have 2 questions about duplication of scientific papers. First of all, is a kind of a thing that I faced not so long ago. It's about SPE proceedings, and when I sent my manuscript to SPE proceedings, I get a letter from one of SPE journals which said that they want me to publish this manuscript, which will be, let's say like this, polished in their journal. So is it allowed, for example, if I publish
something in conference proceedings, and after that, a kind of a journal asked me to publish the same one.
Sometimes you're asked to publish in conference proceeding, like writing. The point is that these conference proceedings have much less value. They may block you from publishing elsewhere. That's one thing. And most often they do. The other thing is they're not available on PubMed, so people cannot get access to it. And so you don't get the credit from it, because most conference proceedings doesn't go through this normal reviewing process. So when you are evaluating in some years, when you apply for this professorship, the conference proceedings are not, they don't care about it.
So it's more about journals, yep?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
When I started doing science, I always felt so proud when I was also asked sometimes to publish in conference proceedings. They are interested in what I'm doing, but they're just interested in making a book so they can sell it and make some money, and you don't get anything. And so basically, when I get mails like this, I just push the delete.
Thank you.
What to do if me and some people who I even don't know have similar ideas? For example, I try to publish some book, and I know people think that he has already done the same book, but that's not correct. I even don't hear nothing about this person.
I'm not sure. You saying you publish, and then comes another person and says that he or she published this.
Something like when something like with boy and mirror law. You see, one published and other published, and this law absolutely parallel.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting thing you are coming up with, because sometimes I have had this feeling. I got this absolutely idea. It's the idea of a genius. I'm a genius because this is totally new. And then I don't have time to start doing it, but I have to wait until the spring. And then suddenly I see what I was thinking is now published. Yeah. And the point is that, it is, you think that you are a genius, but we are not. At least I'm not. But sometimes you get the feeling that you are a genius. But the point is that the knowledge in science is building up like this. Suddenly you are at the stage where you get this idea. But then there's a big chance that somebody else, when the knowledge will come up to the same stage, also get the idea. It's to take the possibility that you are the only person in the world that has this idea. It may not be so big. So if you feel that you get the idea of a genius, do it right now. Because there are probably some other genius that have the same idea. Actually, this I have experienced several times in my career. I just thought, but then suddenly somebody was before me. The point is, even if you are doing something similar, you should not despair. Because usually you and the other team has approached the same problem from a little different sides, a little different techniques, and it is very valuable to have it confirmed by 2 labs with different techniques. So, but you are not the first. But still, your work is not without value. Is that an answer to your question? Yes. Yeah. I can tell you, there was a Swedish friend of mine. He was at the conference and he presented his work, which was quite revolutionary. And but it was only very preliminary data. He had little data, it was very preliminary, but it was revolutionary. And at this meeting was this big American professor that immediately went home, and he had a huge institution and put like 20 people to work on this. So in 3 months they had made like a lot of work and sent in a paper. And my friend had a smaller group and things went. So when they were actually sitting in their offices writing together papers, suddenly they saw this other paper published. But it was stealing the idea. I can also tell you something. I've experienced a lot of things in my life. And when I was started to train in surgery, actually it was my idea, and I was collecting blood samples from patients, and I was doing it in the middle of the night, even coming in in my free time, and put them in the freezer. Then I had a friend, I thought it was a friend, working in clinical chemistry. He should do a lot of analysis on this. So I gave him all samples, and 1 year later suddenly I had, those are my data, they are published. But I didn't know about it, and he had just published it in his own name. So if it had been today, I had written to the editor, complained. At that time I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. But at least you know who will you collaborate in the future or not. That's also an important information.
Sir, I have a question about the simultaneous submissions of your paper to different magazine
Yes.
journals. Now, how is that a bad thing? I don't understand, because if I have a paper and I wanted to get it published, I can send it to 2 different journals, and whichever journal picks up my paper, wouldn't it be better? It will save me time.
This is regarded as very bad behavior. From your point of view, it's very good, because maybe one don't accept it, the other will accept it, so it saves you a lot of time. But you have to understand that the editorial offices they have people working there full time in the big journals. Then they have an editor-in-chief who is a scientist working in his lab and doing this partly on his free time. There are I was associate editor for 11 years, and I had to, during this time, I had to review 3 manuscripts a week in the average. I had to find reviewers for hundreds of papers. This I did in my free time, and there was no money on it. The reviewers are doing this in their free time. This is like, it's like a courtesy to the scientific society. You do this in order to run science, because if you should pay everybody, then it would be so expensive that nobody would buy the journals. So by doing this, you involve a lot of people partly working for free. So this is bad behavior.
Sir, another one. As a medical student who is going to graduate and start working in a hospital as a clinician, how do I
go about getting into the more academic side of my subject? How do I get into publishing more papers? Should I align myself with the university, or what would be your first thought on that?
Okay, the best advice is to enter a hospital where there is an active academic life. Then it is usually so that the more senior persons, they are thirsty for young, eager, hardworking people that can function as slaves for them to pick up data and everything, and because there's a lack of such people.
Sorry, sir. So sometimes some people, I mean, there is a research work published, and there's a professor somewhere. He sees this research work, he doesn't believe it, or he believes it. He wants to disprove it or prove it, and then he does something exactly like this, just to prove or disprove, but in a different maybe country or state. And I mean, he states it out that okay, I'm doing this just because I want to know if this guy did this with the same conditions, the same methodology, and everything. So is this also fraud or?
No, that is not fraud. If you actually, if you want to do this, I would say you should use. One thing is, just one observation may be nothing. You need confirmation. But it is much more difficult to get published the confirmation than the first one, because that is news. Then they can say that you just copy. So what you should do is you should approach the problem with little different methods. And actually, if you then write and if you confirm it, then it's a very, if you have approached the problem with a different method and you still can confirm the findings, it's not a lab, it's a very strong evidence that this is correct. Yes. If you don't can confirm it, then you can have a lot of interesting discussion why it's different, and you can say that no, the other guy, if you have some scientific argument for this, you can say no, the other team, they were not doing it correctly. We are the best, let's say. But you have to be specific both in the introduction, why you want to copy it, because you feel, then you have to actually analyze the other paper and say that there may be some problems with this, or we want it. And you cannot just say I want to copy it. That is not scientific, but you have to argue scientifically that there may be some problems with this, so we are skeptical, therefore we are doing it with the body.
Any questions?
My question about how long you think, or maybe average, roads.
Can you speak louder, please?
How long do you think it will do articles in average? Big journals, they consider articles for a couple weeks, right? But some journals consider papers longer, a month or two, and sometimes it's even longer. Yes. What our option is withdrawal article. What do you think? Where is the borderline when I need to withdraw my paper?
Why should you withdraw it?
Because it's too long.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you a little how this works. The editor sends out. We had a big database, and we put in some keywords and see what names of experts connected to this. And then so we know and so we don't know. And we always had 2 reviewers. So we sent to 2 reviewers. And they are asked to answer you if they can review it within a few days. And then time is running, and then suddenly the time approaches, and one of them don't answer all. And then you send another mail as a reminder, and there's still no answer. So after some days, so then you send an email saying we understand you're interested, and then you have to find another. This can actually go on a little. That's one thing. But even if they accept the review at the first attempt, and they said like, okay, you have to, we appreciate, we are polite. We appreciate to have your review back within 3 weeks on that and that date. Okay, so that date is coming and there's no review. So the day, 1 or 2 days after, you send a polite letter to remind, and no answer. Yeah, and I can elaborate this, but actually this is one of the reasons. And suddenly you get this mail back, and unfortunately I'm unable to review it. And then you have lost 4 weeks already. This is quite a common thing. Because I said, people are doing this in their free time. And most people that are senior people are reviewing, and they are very busy.
Any questions? So I would like to thank the Almazov Medical Center, IT University, and the Optical Student Chapter for this event, and also thanks again for excellent lecture.
Thank you.
Thanks. Now I invite all participants to make a photo with Professor.
I can just say a few words. I'm very happy to be in St. Petersburg, which actually is a city I like very much. I'm not trying to be nice when I say that it is one of my favorite cities. It's true. So it's a pleasure to have a good excuse to be here. Anyway, it was also something I appreciate very much. You know when you are coming in the place and younger students, and what happens, are they silent or not? But I appreciate very much that you have been active and asking questions, and this is this is also something important and to do. Don't be shy and keeping your questions to yourself, because if you wonder about this, you can be sure that there's somebody else in the audience that also wonder about this, so you're actually helping you. Okay, thank you. A question?
Sir, thank you for the excellent lecture. I just wanted to ask a question bit out of the team. How is the medical things in Norway, since you're from Norway? So how is it for the foreign graduates if they come and work in Norway? Do we need to learn the language for a couple of years, or like how?
Well, if you have a citizenship in the European Union, I don't know all these details, but if your citizenship within the European Union, you need to have a language knowledge. I mean, you cannot treat patients if you cannot talk with them. This is self-evident. If you're outside the European Union, then it is an individual. For instance, you have to present how many hours did you have this and this during medical school, etc., etc. So the point is, it is supposed to be the equivalent of the Norwegian, and you need language skills. So Norway is traditionally a country that are quite strict on both immigration and certification of foreigners, but still within European Union, easy. Even if we are not a member of the European Union, we are just so-called associate member, but inside Schengen, So, but yeah, I would say if you're outside the European Union, it is not easy.
Okay, thanks again. I invite to make a photo. Oh, what's it?
So where should we make photo?
They're gonna go to the room, shake it out. Old school group.
Не, я помню, конечно. Он звонил, я поднял вопрос.
Подождите.
Can I get clear? Okay, thank you.
Hey.